The quiet hum of the ship's engines was the only sound as Ethan stared out of the window into the vast unknown. He had been assigned to this mission to investigate a strange distress signal. From a nearby planet, the signal had been weak, barely detectable, but it was enough to draw attention from Earth's command. Ethan had never expected a routine assignment to turn into something like this. He wasn't an officer with much experience, just a young officer with a lot to prove. The stars outside the windows sparkled, and the planet they were heading toward seemed peaceful. But Ethan felt a strange sense of unease. Something didn't feel right. The ship was nearing the planet when he saw the damaged ship. It was floating in orbit. Broken and abandoned, it was an alien ship, unlike anything he had seen before. The wreckage was massive, yet it appeared to be partially intact. Ethan, we're entering the atmosphere now. Prepare for landing, came the voice of the captain over the comms. Ethan quickly moved to the control panel, his fingers tapping the buttons as the ship descended toward the surface. His mind raced. What kind of distress signal could be coming from a ship like this? Who could be alive, or what could have caused this destruction? The ship landed on a rocky, barren stretch of land. As the doors opened, Ethan stepped out, his boots crunching against the dust beneath him. He checked his suit one last time, making sure everything was in place. He wasn't sure what he was about to face, but he was ready. The wreckage of the alien ship was unlike anything he had seen. It was a twisted mix of metal and strange alien materials, yet there was something elegant about it, something that spoke of a lost civilization. He could feel the weight of the ship's history as he stepped closer. Ethan moved cautiously around the wreck, scanning for any signs of life. It was eerily quiet, save for the wind that blew across the desolate surface. His breath was steady as he searched for any signs of survivors. Then he heard something, a faint cry. It was a voice, weak and barely audible. But there was no mistaking it. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Someone was alive. Following the sound, he carefully made his way through the wreckage, his heart pounding in his chest. The cry grew louder as he approached, and soon he saw her. She was lying near the remains of the ship, a young woman with long, dark hair, dressed in strange armor. Her face was hidden by a veil, but there was no mistaking the strength in her posture. She was an alien, but she didn't seem like a threat. In fact, she seemed vulnerable, her body bruised, her breathing shallow. "Hey," Ethan called out, rushing to her side. "Are you okay? What happened?" The woman's eyes fluttered open, but they were not what he expected. She was blind. Her eyes, though intact, were completely white. Despite her blindness, she looked directly at him as if she could see him clearly. "You're human," she said, her voice soft but firm. There was an intensity in her words that Ethan couldn't ignore. "You're here to help me?" Ethan paused, unsure how to respond. "I'll help you, but we need to get you back to the ship. You're hurt, and I don't know what's going on here." The woman's lips curled into a small smile. "I am Leora, princess of the Xylian people. I don't need your pity, human," she said, her voice taking on a sharper edge. "But I do need your help. You will take me to your ship, and I will demand you protect me. You have no choice." Ethan blinked in surprise at the forcefulness of her words. A princess? He had expected a simple rescue mission, not to be thrust into the heart of an alien royal situation. "I'm not sure what you mean," he stammered. "You need help, but I'm just here to bring you back safely." "I'm not." "Enough," Leora interrupted, her voice becoming commanding. "I'm blind, yes, but I see more than you can understand, and right now, you will help me. You will assist me in restoring my rightful place, and I will make you my partner in the process. This is no longer just a rescue. It is your duty." Ethan stepped back, taken aback. "Partner? I'm just a ship officer. I'm not. You are mine." "Now," she said. The intensity in her voice made Ethan pause, unsure of how to react. There was something ancient and powerful in the way she spoke, something he couldn't explain. He knew that this was no ordinary mission, and he was now in a situation far beyond his understanding. Still, he couldn't leave her here. She was injured, and though she spoke with authority, he could see the pain in her face, Despite the strange demand she made, he felt a pull, a connection he didn't quite understand. Maybe it was her strength, or maybe it was her confidence despite her blindness. But he knew he couldn't leave her to fend for herself. "All right," Ethan said, his voice steadying. "I'll take you back to the ship, but after that, we'll figure this out." "I can't promise anything beyond that." Leora nodded, as if she had expected his answer. "You will do more than take me back. You will help me take back what is mine." The journey back to the ship was difficult. Leora couldn't see, but she guided him with an eerie precision, as if she could sense everything around her. Her commands were sharp, and Ethan couldn't help but marvel at her confidence. When they finally arrived at the ship, Ethan helped her aboard, the strange alien vessel humming as the ramp closed behind them. As they entered the ship's medical bay, Ethan laid Leora down carefully, examining her injuries. Her wounds were not life-threatening, but they were severe enough to require immediate attention. He patched up her cuts and bruises as best as he could, and in return, Leora told him more about herself and her world. Her voice softened as she explained her people, their history, and how she had been betrayed by her own kin. But despite everything she had lost, she still carried the pride of her race within her. "I'm not just a princess," Leora said quietly. "I'm the last of my kind who can restore what was lost. But I need a partner, someone who understands strength, loyalty, and sacrifice. Someone like you." Human Ethan didn't fully understand, but he felt the weight of her words. He couldn't deny the feeling that he was now part of something much larger than himself, and whatever was about to come, he knew he had no choice but to face it with her. After the long journey back to the ship, Ethan sat by Leora's side in the medical bay, watching as she rested. Her wounds were being treated, and although she had a quiet strength, there was something fragile about her that made Ethan want to protect her. She had a calmness in her voice, but the intensity of her presence was undeniable. "Thank you for saving me," Leora said softly, her voice steady despite her injuries. Her eyes, still clouded with blindness, seemed to focus on him. "I know I am no ordinary being, but I am more than what you might have expected." Ethan looked at her, unsure of what to say. His mind was still trying to process everything that had happened in such a short time. He had started this mission expecting a routine search and rescue operation, but now, here he was, helping a blind alien princess recover. She had demanded his help, and despite his confusion, he couldn't deny that he felt an odd sense of responsibility toward her. "You're not what I expected, either," he said, his voice gentle. "But I'm here now, and I'll help however I can. But I need to understand more about who you are. You're the last of your people, right? You said something about taking back what's yours." Leora's expression softened, though her face remained stoic. "Yes, I am the last of the Xylian royal line. My kingdom was torn apart by betrayal and greed. My people once ruled a vast empire, but now we are nothing. I am the last hope for them, and I must restore our honor. But to do that, I need a partner. I need someone strong enough to stand by my side, someone with courage, loyalty, and determination. And I believe you are that person, Ethan." Ethan was silent for a moment, thinking about her words. Partner. He had only agreed to help her out, of a sense of duty, but now, as she spoke, he realized that this was something much bigger. This wasn't just about rescuing someone from danger. This was about helping her reclaim a lost kingdom. "I'm not sure I understand," Ethan said slowly. "I'm just a ship officer. What do you need from me exactly?" Leora smiled faintly. "You are more than that, Ethan. You are someone with the strength to help me rebuild what was lost. I need you not only to protect me but to fight beside me, to help me reclaim the throne that was stolen from me. And in return, I offer you my loyalty and my trust." Her words stirred something within him. There was a deep sincerity in her voice that made Ethan feel both humbled and conflicted. He had never signed up for anything like this, yet something about Leora's words touched him. She was more than just an alien princess. She was a woman who had lost everything, yet still carried the weight of her people's legacy. As the days passed, Leora's condition improved. Ethan continued to tend to her, helping with her recovery, but they also spent time talking. She told him stories of her people, the Xylian race, a proud and powerful civilization that once ruled many worlds. Her kingdom had been built on strength, honor, and unity. But when her father, the king, had passed away, everything changed. Betrayed by those closest to her, Leora had been cast aside, and her kingdom was left in ruins. Despite the pain in her voice, there was a fire in her that Ethan couldn't ignore. She was determined to rebuild, to restore her people's honor. She had no doubt that she could do it, but she knew she needed help, someone she could trust to fight by her side. And somehow, Ethan found himself pulled into her cause. They began to spend more time together. Leora shared her knowledge of the Xylian people's customs and traditions, and Ethan began to see the world through her eyes, literally and figuratively. He had always thought of alien species as distant, almost mythical beings, but Leora was real. She was a leader who had been thrown into the fire of betrayal and loss. Yet she still carried the weight of her people's future on her shoulders. In the quiet moments, when Leora wasn't talking about her kingdom or her past, she would tell Ethan about her life before everything had fallen apart. She spoke of her childhood, of the love she had for her people, and how, despite being blind, she had never felt weak. "I was born into power," she said one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I have always known that true strength comes from within. My blindness has never stopped me. It has made me stronger. It has made me who I am today." Ethan found himself mesmerized by her words. There was a grace to her, a quiet power that he couldn't explain. She wasn't just a princess. She was a force to be reckoned with, and he was beginning to understand that she saw the world in a way that he could never fully grasp. "I can't imagine what it's like," Ethan said one night as they sat together on the deck of the ship, staring out at the stars, "to lose everything, your family, your people, your home." Leora's face softened. "It is a burden I carry every day, but it is one I will not let break me. I will rebuild. I will take back what is mine." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of admiration for her that he hadn't expected. "I'll help you," he said, his voice firm. "I don't know how, but I'll do whatever it takes to help you rebuild your kingdom." Leora turned to him, her unseeing eyes locking onto his. "You have already done more than you know, Ethan. You have given me hope. That is something I thought I had lost forever." There was a pause, a moment of quiet understanding between them. Ethan realized that, despite everything, he had started to care about her, not just as a princess or an alien, but as a person. Her strength, her determination, and her fierce loyalty had captivated him in a way he hadn't expected. And though he still didn't fully understand what it meant to be her partner, he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going anywhere. As they continued their journey, Ethan couldn't help but feel that their fates were tied together now. He didn't know what the future held, but he was ready to face it. Standing beside Leora, together, they would reclaim what was lost. The ship hummed steadily as it glided through the stars, leaving the damaged planet far behind. Ethan sat at the navigation controls, his hand steady on the ship's interface. But his mind wasn't on the ship's course, it was on Leora, the alien princess who had become more than just a mysterious figure in his life. She had a plan, she had a mission, and now he was part of it. For the last few days, Leora had been recovering from her injuries, but she hadn't stopped talking about her people, their traditions, and the things that needed to be done to restore her kingdom. Every night, after Ethan had finished his duties on the ship, Leora would call him to her quarters, where they would sit and talk. She explained how her people had once lived in peace and harmony, with great respect for their rituals and the bonds they shared. But all of that had been lost when her kingdom was betrayed. Now, she had no choice but to perform an ancient ritual, one that would bind her to a partner who could help her reclaim her throne. The ritual was complex, and Ethan was not entirely sure he understood it all. But he knew that it wasn't just about her regaining power. It was about something much deeper, the bond between them. Leora had made it clear that she would need him by her side, not just for the ritual, but for the battles to come. She had said that the bond they would share would not only restore her people's pride, but also solidify their connection. Ethan wasn't sure what that meant, but it made his heart race every time she spoke about it. As the days passed, the ship moved closer to the heart of Xylene space, the place where Lior had once ruled. It was an ancient world filled with monuments to her people's once great civilization. The journey had been long, and the tension between Ethan and Lior had only grown stronger. They didn't speak of it directly, but the connection they were beginning to share was impossible to ignore. Finally, they reached the planet, a place of ancient ruins and forgotten stories. The city, once filled with life and power, now lay in silence. The only signs of life were the winds that blew through the shattered walls of what had once been a great palace. Lior stood at the entrance to the city, her gaze fixed on the ruins ahead. Ethan watched her, wondering what she was thinking. She had told him that this place was where the ritual would take place, but he didn't fully understand what he was supposed to do. "This is it," Lior said quietly, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "This is where it begins." Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "What do we do now?" Lior turned to him, a faint smile on her lips. "Now, we begin the ritual. You must trust me, Ethan. This is not just about us. It is about restoring my people's future." Ethan nodded, though his mind was filled with uncertainty. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he had come this far, and now there was no turning back. Lior led him to a stone platform in the center of the city, surrounded by ancient symbols etched into the ground. The air was thick with an almost tangible energy, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. "This is where my people perform their most sacred rituals," Lior explained, her voice steady. "It is here that bonds were made. It is here that I will make mine with you." Ethan took a deep breath and stepped onto the platform beside her. The moment his feet touched the ground, he felt something shift inside him. A strange warmth spread through his chest, as if the energy of the planet was reaching out to him. It was like nothing he had ever experienced. Lior closed her eyes, her hands raised toward the sky. "We must open ourselves to the power of the planet, Ethan. This ritual requires our complete trust. We must be willing to give ourselves to it." Ethan hesitated for a moment, but then, feeling the weight of the moment, he did the same. He raised his hands toward the sky, his heart racing as he focused on the energy around him. It felt like a deep connection, a pull between him and Liora that went beyond anything he could explain. Slowly, the ground beneath them began to glow. The ancient symbols on the platform shimmered with light, and a soft hum filled the air. Ethan's heart raced as he watched the energy swirl around them. He could feel it now. This was no ordinary ritual. This was something ancient, something powerful, and it was happening to him. Liora's voice broke through the silence. "Ethan, do not fear. This is the first step of our bond. The energy will connect us, and we will share it. This is how it must be." As Lior spoke, the energy around them intensified. Ethan felt it surge through his body, a wave of power that seemed to flow into him, filling every part of him. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. His heart pounded in his chest as he felt the connection between him and Liora deepen. He could sense her presence more clearly now, not just physically, but in a way that reached into the depths of his soul. The ritual wasn't just about them standing together. It was about something far more intimate. It was about sharing everything: trust, fear, strength, and weakness. And as the energy swirled around them, Ethan realized that this bond would change everything. He had never felt so connected to another person before, and he didn't know if he was ready for it. But Liora's steady presence gave him strength. She wasn't asking for his trust. She was showing him why she deserved it. She was offering him her heart, her loyalty, and her power. And for some reason, that was enough to calm his racing thoughts. The energy around them continued to grow, swirling faster and faster until it reached a peak. The light from the platform became blinding, and Ethan closed his eyes against the brightness. He felt his pulse quicken as the bond between them deepened. It was like they were no longer two separate beings, but one, bound together by the power of the planet and their shared mission. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the energy dissipated, leaving only a soft glow in the air. Ethan opened his eyes, feeling different changed, but not in a way he could fully understand. He looked at Leora, whose face was serene, as though the ritual had been just another part of her life. "It is done," she said softly. Ethan nodded, though he still felt the effects of the ritual deep within him. "I don't know what just happened, but I feel connected to you." Leora smiled, her eyes warm despite her blindness. "That is the beginning, Ethan. Now, we are bound. Now, we can begin the real work of reclaiming my kingdom." Ethan stood beside her, knowing that the path ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, he didn't feel afraid. Together, they would face whatever came next. The ritual had been only the beginning of their journey. The days that followed the ritual were quiet but full of tension. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about what had happened on the platform. The bond he had shared with Leora was unlike anything he had ever experienced. He felt her presence now, not just as a partner in their mission, but as a part of him. It was strange, but there was no denying it. He couldn't explain it, but it was real. Leora had said that the bond would make them stronger, but he still didn't fully understand how it worked. Every time he looked at her, something in his chest tightened. It wasn't just admiration anymore, it was something deeper. There was a connection, something unspoken between them, and it was growing stronger every day. They had made their way back to the ship after the ritual, and the quiet hum of the engines was the only sound as they traveled deeper into Xylian space. The stars outside were distant and cold, but inside the ship, there was a warmth that seemed to radiate from the bond they had created. Leora sat across from him, her unseeing eyes closed, as if in deep thought. Ethan had come to understand that her blindness didn't hinder her perception. She could sense everything around her, even without her sight. It was one of the many things that made her so powerful. "Ethan," Leora said suddenly, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm but commanding. "There is much we still need to do. We've only just begun." He turned to her, his heart skipping a beat. "What do you mean?" "We are bound now," Leora continued, her voice steady. "This bond is not just about us being together. It's about our strength, our unity. We will face many challenges, and we cannot do it alone. Together, we can rebuild my kingdom. But first, we must prove to my people that I am worthy to rule again." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "What do you need me to do?" Leora smiled faintly, and for the first time, Ethan saw a glimpse of the woman behind the crown. "You will help me win their trust, Ethan. You will stand by my side as my partner. You are no longer just a ship officer. You are part of my destiny." Ethan felt a rush of emotions. He had never planned to be anything more than a soldier. But now, with Leora's words, he realized that he had already become something more. He had become part of something greater than himself, and that scared him. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said, his voice steady. "But I need you to be honest with me. What exactly do you need from me?" Leora's expression softened, though her face remained calm. "You have already given me your trust. Now, I need you to stand by me in every way. We must unite our strengths, yours and mine. The people of Xylian will not accept a ruler who is weak. They will only accept strength, and I need you to help me show them that I am strong enough." The words hung in the air between them. Ethan didn't fully understand how he could help her, but he was willing to try. He had already committed himself to her cause, but now the responsibility felt much heavier. "We'll do it together," Ethan said, his voice full of determination. "We'll prove that you are the ruler your people need." Leora nodded, her expression softening. "Thank you, Ethan. You do not know how much this means to me." For the next few days, their focus shifted toward preparing for the next phase of their journey. Leora had a plan, a strategy to regain her people's loyalty. They would travel to the Xylian capital, where the remnants of her royal court still resided. It would not be an easy journey. There were factions within her kingdom that did not want her to return to power, and those factions would do anything to stop her. Ethan helped Leora prepare for the challenges ahead. They studied the political landscape of her world, learning about the key figures who would either support or oppose her. Some were former allies, while others were enemies who had turned against her after her father's death. Leora had always been a strong ruler, but now she had something even more powerful: Ethan's unwavering support. One evening, as they sat together in the ship's common room, Leora turned to Ethan, her face serious. "I must ask something of you," she said quietly. Ethan looked at her, his heart racing. "What is it?" "You must be my strength when I falter," Leora said softly. "There will be times when I will doubt myself. The road ahead will not be easy, but you must always remind me of the bond we share. You must remind me that we are stronger together." Ethan reached out and placed his hand over hers. "I won't let you down, I promise." Leora's eyes closed for a moment, and when she opened them again, there was a softness in her gaze. "Thank you, Ethan. You are more than I could have hoped for." As the days passed, the bond between them deepened. Ethan began to understand the true nature of the connection they shared. It wasn't just about physical attraction or loyalty. It was about trust. They were bound by a shared purpose, a shared destiny, and that bond gave them strength. They arrived at the Xylian capital on a quiet, cold morning. The city stretched before them, ancient buildings rising against the backdrop of a clouded sky. The air was thick with tension. Ethan could feel it in his bones. They were about to face the greatest challenge yet. Leora turned to him as they stood at the entrance to the city. "Are you ready?" Ethan looked at her, feeling the weight of the moment. "I am. We're in this together." Leora smiled, her confidence returning. "Then let us begin." Together, they stepped forward, the bond between them stronger than ever. They would face the future as partners, united by their mission, their strength, and their unbreakable bond. The Xylian capital loomed ahead, a city of ancient beauty and hidden dangers. The tall towers were weathered by time, their once glistening surfaces now marred by age. Ethan stood by Leora's side, watching as she surveyed the city with a mixture of determination and sadness. The weight of what was to come was heavy on both of them. Leora had been born to rule this city, but now it felt like a distant dream, something that had been lost to time. "We're here," Ethan said softly, his voice breaking the silence. Leora nodded without turning her head. Her blind eyes were fixed on something far beyond the horizon, something only she could see. Despite the loss, despite the betrayal that had stolen her people's trust, she carried herself with the strength of a ruler. "I can feel it," she said, her voice calm but strong. "The air is different here. It feels like home, but it's also not home anymore." Ethan knew exactly what she meant. The once great capital was now a shadow of its former self. The streets were empty, the city eerily quiet. The people who once thrived here were scattered, their loyalty divided between factions, each one vying for control. The Xylian kingdom had fallen apart after the betrayal that had ousted Leora from power. But now, she was back, determined to take what was rightfully hers. They moved quickly through the deserted streets, the city's silence pressing in on them like a heavy blanket. Leora's steps were sure, though her blindness never wavered her confidence. Ethan walked beside her, ready to protect her from whatever threats might lie ahead. When they reached the palace gates, Leora stopped. She turned toward him, her expression unreadable. "This is it. Once we enter, we will face the council. They will decide whether I am worthy of the throne or if I will be cast aside forever." Ethan felt a wave of uncertainty, but he pushed it aside. "You're strong, Leora. You've been through so much. You're more than worthy." Her lips curled into a faint smile. "I hope you're right, Ethan. But this won't be easy. The council is divided. Some want me back. Others do not. There are those who believe my blindness makes me unfit to rule. But I will prove them wrong." Ethan couldn't help but admire her determination. She had lost so much, but she never once allowed that to define her. She had a goal to restore her people's honor and take back the throne. And he would stand by her side, no matter what. They walked through the gates of the palace, their footsteps echoing in the empty halls. The once beautiful walls were now cracked, the air thick with the weight of lost hopes. It felt like walking through a tomb, a place where the past had died and the future was uncertain. They reached the council chamber, the door standing tall before them. Leora's hand rested on the cool stone, and she closed her eyes for a brief moment, as if gathering her thoughts. "Are you ready?" Ethan asked, his voice steady but filled with concern. Leora opened her eyes, and for the first time, Ethan saw a flicker of doubt in her gaze. But it was gone in an instant. "I have no choice," she said quietly. "I must face them. I must prove that I am not just a ruler because of my bloodline, but because of who I am. Because I can lead." With a deep breath, she pushed open the door. Inside, the council chamber was dark, the only light coming from a series of flickering torches that lined the walls. The council members were seated around a large, circular table, their faces grim and full of judgment. They looked at Leora with cold eyes, as if they were waiting for her to fail dot as she entered. The room fell silent. Leora stood tall, her hands resting at her sides, her expression calm and composed. Ethan stood beside her, ready to support her, no matter what happened. One of the council members, a tall Xylian man with a scar across his face, spoke first. "So, you return, princess, after all these years of hiding. You come to demand what is rightfully yours. But the question is, are you worthy of it?" Leora's voice was unwavering. "I am more than worthy. I did not ask for pity or sympathy. I asked for what belongs to me by right, the throne of Xylian." Another council member, an older woman with silver hair, looked at Leora with a mixture of pity and disdain. "And what of your blindness, princess? How can you lead a people if you cannot see the world around you? How can you protect your kingdom if you cannot even protect yourself?" The question hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. He could feel the tension in the air, the judgment in the council's eyes. He wanted to say something, to defend Leora, but he held his tongue. This was her fight, not his. Leora stood silent for a moment, letting the question hang in the air. Then, she spoke with a quiet confidence that filled the room. "My blindness does not define me. It has only made me stronger. I have led my people before, and I will lead them again. My vision comes from within, not from my eyes." The council members exchanged glances, but none spoke. Leora's words hung in the air like a challenge, daring them to deny her. A third council member, a younger Xylian man, spoke up. "But you are not the only one with a claim to the throne. There are those among us who have led in your absence. Who will support us if we allow you to return?" Leora's voice grew colder, her confidence unwavering. "I did not ask for support, but for loyalty. The throne is not a game to be played by those who seek power for their own gain. It is for those who are willing to fight for what is right, and I am that leader." The room was silent again, the tension almost unbearable. Ethan stood still, beside Leora, his heart pounding in his chest. He could see the fire in her eyes now, the same fire that had driven her to this point. She would not back down. She would fight for her throne, no matter what. Finally, the older woman spoke again. "You have spoken well, princess, but we shall see if your actions match your words." Leora didn't flinch. "I will show you." Ethan could feel the weight of the moment. Leora had spoken with strength, but the battle was far from over. The council might not accept her now, but he believed in her. He had seen what she was capable of, and together they would prove that she was the leader her people needed. The council chamber was thick with tension. The words had been spoken, the accusations laid bare, but there was still much left unsaid. Leora stood at the center of the room, her face calm but her hands clenched by her sides. Ethan stood beside her, ready to support her no matter what happened. The council, divided in their opinions, looked at them with judgmental eyes. They were not convinced, yet the silence stretched long, broken only by the faint crackling of the torches lining the room. Leora's voice, steady and unwavering, cut through the stillness. "You are right to question me," she said, her tone filled with a quiet strength. "I do not expect you to accept me without proof. But know this, my blindness does not make me weak. I will not let my people suffer because of it." One of the council members, a man with dark eyes and sharp features, leaned forward in his seat. "You speak of loyalty, But loyalty is earned, not given freely. There are many who have suffered in your absence. You cannot simply return and demand that we follow you." Leora's lips tightened, and Ethan could feel the heat of her anger, though she did not show it. "I did not demand anything," she replied coldly. "I will earn your loyalty with my actions, not my words." The council murmured, exchanging looks, as if considering her words. Ethan stood quietly, watching the way Leora held herself, the way she carried the weight of her people's future. He had seen her fight for what was hers, seen her face her own weaknesses with strength. And now, it was time for the council to see it too. A woman on the council, her hair streaked with silver, spoke next. Her voice was sharp, like the crackle of fire. "What if you are wrong? What if you lead us into ruin? We have seen enough. Destruction already. What makes you think you are fit to restore what was lost?" Leora took a step forward, her unseeing eyes now focused on the woman. "I have seen destruction. Yes, but I have also seen hope, even in the darkest of times. I was not born into power, but I have learned to lead. Not because I can see the world with my eyes, but because I have seen the world with my heart." Ethan watched as Leora's words sank into the room, the council members shifting uncomfortably in their seats. It was clear now that she had their attention. They might not trust her yet, but they were listening, and that was a victory in itself. Another council member, a tall figure with a cold demeanor, stood up. His voice was low and deliberate. "You speak of heart and strength, but what of your ability to fight? Can you truly defend us against the threats that loom? Can you stand against those who would tear us apart?" Leora didn't flinch at his words. Instead, she looked directly at him, her voice unwavering. "I have fought for my people before. I have defended them with everything I have, and I will do it again, if it means saving what is left of my kingdom." Ethan's heart swelled with pride. He had seen Leora's strength, her resilience. He had fought alongside her, and he knew better than anyone that she was more than capable of leading. The council was still divided, but there was no turning back now. The final confrontation had come, and it was clear that they would not easily be swayed. Ethan knew that they would need more than just words to prove their worth. They would need action. Suddenly, the doors to the chamber opened with a loud creak, and a figure stepped inside. A man, tall and imposing, his eyes dark and unreadable. He wore the dark robes of a Xylian noble, his face scarred by years of battle. He was not a member of the council, but everyone in the room knew him. Thorn, a former ally of Leora's father, had become one of the most powerful and dangerous figures in the kingdom. Thorn's presence sent a ripple of tension through the room. He was the one person who could sway the council in their decision, and he had not come to support Leora. Well, Thorn's voice boomed, rich with sarcasm. "The lost princess returns, begging for her throne." He looked at Leora with a sneer. "You think you can take what was stolen from you? You think you can rule again after everything that has happened?" Leora did not flinch. "I do not beg, Thorn. I reclaim what is mine by right. The throne belongs to me, not to you or anyone else who thinks they can take it." Thorn's gaze hardened, and for a moment, Ethan thought the confrontation would turn violent. But Leora's calm demeanor never wavered. "I will not stand aside and let you destroy this kingdom," Thorn said, his voice low and dangerous. "The people of Xylian have suffered enough. You are nothing more than a figurehead, a puppet to be controlled." Leora's voice was cold as ice. "You know nothing about me, Thorn. You know nothing about what I have sacrificed to get here. You have no right to speak of control, for it is you who have manipulated my people for your own gain." The tension in the room was palpable, and Ethan could feel the weight of it in his chest. This was it, the final confrontation. Leora was no longer just fighting for the throne. She was fighting for the truth, for her people, and for her right to rule. Thorn took a step forward, his face inches from Leora's. "I will not let you win," he snarled. "You have no power here. Your blindness makes you weak, and you will never reclaim the throne." But Leora stood her ground, her expression fierce and unwavering. "You are wrong, Thorn," she said softly, but with great power in her voice. It is not weakness that I carry. It is strength, and I will prove it to you. With a sudden, fluid motion, Leora reached out and pressed her hand against the stone floor. The symbols on the walls around them began to glow, the energy of her people's ancient power awakening once again. The very air seemed to hum with a deep, resonating energy. Thorn stepped back, his eyes wide with shock. The council watched in stunned silence as Leora's power surged, her confidence filling the room like a wave. "I will take back what is mine," Leora declared, her voice carrying the full weight of her resolve. "And with or without your support, I will lead Xylian into a future where we are stronger than ever." Ethan stood beside her, his heart swelling with pride. He had known it all along. Leora was not just a princess. She was a leader, a force that could not be stopped.